Revealed, 9 sacred habits spiritual awakening people will manifestly let go of this October. The village of St. Mary's Hollow, nestled between the rolling green hills, stood on the brink of a mysterious transformation. An urgent whisper floated through the village like a chilling breeze. The very sacred habits that connect us with divine grace could be forsaken this October. As dusk fell, the congregation gathered in the chapel, its stained glass glowing with flickering candlelight. Shadows danced on the walls, and with every heartbeat, a sense of anticipation filled the air. At the heart of this gathering was Sarah, a devoted mother and church leader whose heart was tightly woven with the fabric of faith. Weary yet resolute, she gathered her small prayer group as they huddled in the intimacy of the chapel, each soul yearning for divine connection. Just weeks before, her family was struck by a mysterious illness that chilled her spirit and shook her faith. In moments of desperate prayer, she envisioned powerful visions of healing waters flowing directly from heaven to her family. Yet, with each prayer, she felt the weight of silence, unanswered cries echoing back at her. Among her neighbors, Sarah sensed a new wave rising, pulling them from sacred traditions. The allure of modern life began to tether them to secularity, and as the village spirits dimmed, her heart ached. Will we abandon our legacy? She pondered, but little did she know, hope lingered in an unexpected corner. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Sarah met an elderly parishioner named Agnes, whose frail hands clasped tightly around a worn prayer book. "My dear," Agnes began, her voice as raspy as autumn leaves, "have you heard the tale of the miraculous healing during the harvest moon? A child was cured of a fatal illness, a divine light poured from above, and she was restored." The room erupted with murmurs, but in that moment, a flicker sparked within Sarah's heart. She felt the breath of the Holy Spirit sweep through her like a warm embrace filled with urgency and hope. Could we witness miracles too? She thought, as renewed faith flowed within her veins. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As her spirit ignited, Sarah resolved to inspire her village into the embrace of hope. She gathered them once more, an assembly of faithful hearts standing at the threshold of faith. The air thickened with anticipation. Would they recommit to their sacred habits, allowing prayer and miracles to flood their lives once again? What if, Sarah implored, we shine bright this October? What if miracles are still at our doorstep, waiting for us? Hope hung thick, but shadows of contemporary distractions loomed large, threatening to pull the villagers away from the faith that had anchored them for generations. As Sarah led her group into fervent prayer, the gentle whisper of divine presence seemed closer than ever, beckoning her community to remember the past. And just beyond the chapel's doors, the stars twinkled as if responding, waiting for hearts to awaken and eyes to see the wonders that loomed just out of reach. Would they grasp this moment, or allow the October chill to snuff out the flickering flame of faith? An extraordinary October awaited, but what miracles would reveal themselves? In the days that followed, Sarah felt a surge of determination wash over her. Each prayer meeting sparked a fire in her heart. The chapel, once just a sanctuary, transformed into a vibrant collective of souls yearning for divine touch. Together, they sang hymns of hope, their voices lifting like incense to the heavens, seeking the warmth of God's promise. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, casting a golden hue across the village, Sarah invited the entire congregation. She believed that October, filled with change, was their chance to reclaim their sacred habits. "Let us gather as one," she spoke, her voice steady and filled with fervor, and open our hearts to God's miracles. The following Sunday, they filled the pews, the chapel alive with whispers of anticipation. The scent of candles mixed with the sweetness of harvested apples placed upon the altar gifts from the village, symbols of gratitude for blessings received. Murmurs of Agnes's miraculous story traveled through the congregation, igniting curiosity and faith. They sought something greater than themselves. As Sarah led the service, she felt an unmistakable presence amongst them. "Let us pray," she urged, "not only for ourselves, but for each other, for our village, for our world." Eyes closed in reverence, hands clasped together, the room transformed into a space where time suspended. A profound stillness hovered, a sacred hush allowing the Spirit to enter, to heal, to renew. In that moment, a soft glow illuminated the chapel. The candles flickered in sweet dance, as if in response to the divine atmosphere bountifully woven with prayers. Sarah opened her eyes, startled but awash with peace. Around her, she noticed faces soaked in serenity, their expressions reflecting faith and expectancy. Suddenly, a young girl named Lily, usually quiet and shy, stood up. "I want to share something." Her voice rang out, trembling yet powerful. Everyone turned, a hush cascading over the crowd. "During our last prayer, I saw a vision. I saw light, a healing light. It enveloped my family, and in it I felt safe." Gasps of wonder erupted, filling the space with a magical energy. They leaned in closer, thirsty for more. "What did you do?" Sarah asked gently, her heart racing with hope. "We prayed," Lily continued, her eyes wide with wonder, and something felt different. It was like love poured over us. That moment, Sarah realized the unfathomable truth. The sacred habits they fostered were indeed powerful. They could heal. They could revive. "This is it," she thought, filled with joy. "We are no longer just echoes of the past. We are vessels for God's light." The following days rippled with a newfound enthusiasm throughout St. Mary's Hollow. Villagers were reconnecting with prayer, fasting, and acts of kindness. They exchanged stories of little miracles, touched hearts, and laughter layered with warmth amongst neighbors. As October rolled on, a spirit of restoration thickened the air. But as hope bloomed, a challenge lurked just beneath the surface. Distracting forces began to seep into their lives. Sarah noticed friends slipping back into familiar routines, consumed by busy work or media entertaining them with trivial concerns. Will we hold on to this miracle? Sarah whispered to herself late one night, surrounded by the whispers of the stars. As she prayed, she felt that same warmth again, reminding her that the divine ever beckoned. Yet, she understood, deep within, another choice lay before them. As October deepened, shadows loomed larger, and Sarah sensed a test looming at her door. What sacrifice would they need to make to hold onto their miraculous awakening? Would their commitment to sacred habits endure amidst the distractions? The answers hung in the autumn air like the last leaves clinging to branches. Would the village stand resolute? As days turned into weeks, the autumn chill wrapped itself around St. Mary's Hollow, weaving a tapestry of fading light and deepening shadows. Yet, amidst the encroaching darkness, a flicker of divine hope sparked within Sarah's heart. She could feel it growing, a seed planted in the fertile ground of their collective faith. One crisp morning, Sarah wandered through the village, the ground beneath her feet carpeted with fallen leaves, their vibrant colors mirroring the spirit that seemed to pulse through the community. She paused by the well, where villagers gathered for simple exchanges, some sharing laughter, others deeper sorrows. She sensed a stirring in the air, a longing that surpassed the everyday chatter. It was a thirst for connection, for something tangible that could anchor them amidst the swirling winds of distraction. As she returned home, an idea began to bloom. What if we created a space to share our sacred journeys? She mused, her thoughts racing with possibilities. A gathering where each could bring their burdens, their joys, and their stories of divine encounters. a celebration of the miracles that had begun to unfold within their small village. That evening, she called for a meeting in the chapel, her heart brimming with anticipation. Let us share our faith and stories. Each week, we'll hold a miracle night where we can come together, lift each other, and renew our spirits, she declared as she stood, illuminated by the flickering candlelight. Excited murmurs filled the space, faces brightening at the thought of such connection. The first miracle night arrived like the dawn after a long night. The chapel buzzed as villagers filtered in, filling each pew with a warmth that chased away the chill. Sarah watched in awe as people embraced each other, sharing smiles and whispered hopes. As the evening progressed, a profound momentum began to build. Stories flowed freely, the challenges they faced, the moments they felt God's presence, and the miraculous changes that followed. Then came old Mr. Thompson, stooped over with age, but vibrant with life. His raspy voice broke the hush. I thought I lost my faith last winter when I lost my wife. Yet here I stand, because I realized God was never far. He kept sending me signs. I just needed to tune in. A collective sigh filled the room, the atmosphere thick with understanding. Sarah felt the presence of God wrapping around them, knitting hearts together like a warm blanket on a cold night. As the clock ticked toward midnight, a sense of urgency gripped her. It's time to reflect on the sacrifices we might need to make, she urged gently, her heart pounding with the weight of the moment. What distractions are we holding onto that keep us from this divine connection? Are we willing to let go? Whispers of agreement wound through the congregation, souls igniting in shared determination. But just as the flame of commitment began to flicker brightly, a shadow passed over her heart. Would they truly prioritize this newfound miracle? When their lives returned to the mundane, would they fight for their faith? In the days that followed, as autumn deepened its grip, Sarah sensed both the urgency and the temptation intertwining in the hearts of her friends. Perhaps this was the true test, the choice between pressing into the light or retreating into the familiar darkness. With every passing hour, the question lingered, haunting the edges of her spirit. How much were they willing to sacrifice to hold onto the miraculous? Would the flame of their faith withstand the trials ahead, or would flickering shadows snuff it out? As she knelt before the altar late one night, the weight of uncertainty bore down on her. A familiar warmth enveloped her, but the question remained. It lingered like the last echoes of a hymn, waiting for a response. What would it take for them to keep their flame alive? And could they find the courage to choose deeper devotion? The days moved forward, each passing one blurring into the next under the dim light of late autumn. Yet, in the heart of St. Mary's Hollow, a spark of something beautiful was awakening. Sarah felt it most keenly during the quiet moments when she took time to reflect on the stories shared during Miracle Night. Each tale, told by the villagers, seemed stitched with threads of hope, illuminating the shadows that had lingered too long. One evening, while sipping tea at her window, Sarah noticed the leaves dancing in a wild wind. They twirled recklessly, yet they were guided by an unseen hand, spiraling upward before settling gently to the ground. A thought struck her, a gentle reminder of how divine guidance weaves through their lives, sometimes unnoticed, leading them to greater heights. Inspired, Sarah turned to her journal. With every swish of her pen, she poured out her heart, documenting not just her thoughts, but also the stories of her friends. She wrote of Mr. Thompson's resilience, of young Miriam's unexpected healing, and of John and Mary's renewal of vows after years of struggling. Each entry felt like a prayer, a written affirmation of God's love manifesting in their lives. In the days that followed, she felt a shift in the air. Conversations became tinged with a new spirit. There was laughter, an eagerness to share faith, and an implicit understanding that their little miracles were just the beginning. The subsequent miracle night arrived, promising even more stories. The chapel filled once again, a sea of faces glowing with anticipation. This time, however, a deeper resolve hung over their gathering, as if a pact had been formed that no one would mention the distractions that had once driven wedges between them. They stood strong in unity. As Sarah stepped forward to speak, her heart raced. Let us embrace the miracles together. Let us commit to being a community that sees, believes, and shares the wonders of our Creator. The room erupted in joyful agreement, hands lifted in affirmation. Then young Thomas, barely in his teens, stood. His voice, though trembling, rang clear. Last week I was lost. I felt like I wouldn't make it through high school. But after seeing everyone gather and share, I realized that I'm not alone. God is with us, ISNT. Light glimmered in their eyes. A deep silence wrapped around the room. When it was Mr. Thompson's turn to speak again, his voice carried a newfound strength. Let's not forget the cost of our devotion, he began, his words stirring a gentle anxiety. But let us also not remember the burdens that keep us from loving freely. The atmosphere shifted. There was recognition of the tension between comfort and commitment. Sarah could see it, the communal struggle, the desire to hold on to faith amidst distractions. Would they anchor themselves to each other and to him? As the night deepened and stories flowed seamlessly, a feeling of urgency brushed Sarah's soul anew. Were they truly ready to commit to what lay ahead? Could they withstand the testing, the sacrifice? Just as she began to wonder if doubt could seep back in, a shimmering presence washed over her. It felt as though God had joined the gathering, reminding them that the journey would not be without valleys. A whisper urged her to trust. With each story shared, each hand squeezed tighter, the bonds formed felt resilient. They were preparing for the waves that might come, their spirits illuminated by love. Still, in the quiet of her heart, a question lingered. What would be asked of them next? Were they ready to face the storm that seemed inevitable in their pursuit of deeper faith? Sarah sensed an impending chapter ahead, where sacrifices would shape the community in ways they had yet to imagine. The peace within her stirred with possibility, yet also uncertainty, as she pondered what God's next lesson might entail. The air was electric with possibility as the days passed after Miracle Night. Each sunrise felt like a golden opportunity to awaken further the faith that was now stirring within Sarah and her friends. An undeniable excitement pulsed through St. Mary's Hollow, fueling an expectation that God was about to unfold something profound. One crisp morning, Sarah wandered to the chapel, compelled to embrace the solitude and seek guidance amidst the familiar pews. As sunlight streamed through the colorful stained glass, each ray illuminated the dust motes dancing in the air. She could almost see prayers swirling upward, joining the countless cries for help and whispers of gratitude that had filled the space over the years. With a deep breath, she sank to her knees and poured out her heart. Lord, she began, lead us, prepare us, help us to see what is to come. A stillness enveloped her, and for a moment, she felt the promise of his presence. Days turned into weeks, and the shared stories from Miracle Night echoed in her mind. As the leaves turned to a fiery red, an urgency gripped her soul. It was as if a divine whisper reminded her that miracles were not solely to be recounted, but must also become activated in their lives. Each member of the community had been touched, yet there was a call to mission that lingered, a call to deeper involvement. During one evening gathering, Sarah spoke to the villagers about the importance of transformation. Miracles can shift us, she urged passionately, but we must let go of habits that hold us back. The weight of our old ways only hinders our growth. Are we ready to shift? An uneasy murmur rippled through the congregation. Several exchanged glances, sensing the weight of Sarah's challenge. Old tendencies die hard. Clinging to past comforts felt safer. Let us consider, she continued, those habits we let define us. It's time we release what hinders our growth in spirit and community. As she spoke, faces began softening. Apprehensions melted into openness. Among them, Elias, an elder with a rich history of faith, stood slowly. Letting go is not easy, he admitted, but I see how the weight of our fears, doubts, even grudges will carry us toward unbearable paths. We must lighten our hearts, if we want to soar. His words ignited something fresh within the gathering. Slowly, hands rose in agreement and nods shared understanding. They needed this moment, this realization that together they could break free. It was then that young Miriam stood up again, tears glistening like stars in her eyes. I couldn't walk before, but now I stand. The Lord has something more for us. A ripple of emotion surged across the room. The lights seemed to shimmer brighter, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. Sarah looked around. Hope bloomed like the rugged branches of the old oak outside. They formed a circle, clasping hands tightly. In that sacred space, a collective calling arose, urging them to release their past pains and embrace the future God had in store. Yet a small dread lingered at the back of Sarah's thoughts. Had they truly embraced the depth of what they were committing to? She felt a knot tighten, not from fear, but from the gravity of intention. Each shared tear, shed mixed with joy, promising growth. Was their faith strong enough to withstand the trials ahead? As the meeting came to a close, the air was thick with anticipation and goodwill. Each heart beat in unison, but Sarah pondered what would the next lessons entail. What storms would they navigate as they stepped onto this path of transformation? The possibility of divine trials loomed ahead, but so too did the promise of illumination. What would be the first moment that challenged their collective faith, defining their resolve to fully let go? Something was about to shake the very foundations of St. Mary's Hollow. In the days that followed, whispers began to fill St. Mary's Hollow, as if the very air danced with curiosity. The promise of transformation loomed over the villagers like a thick mist, thickening the atmosphere with both excitement and uncertainty. Sarah could feel the pulse of change in her very bones. She was ready, yet a sense of trepidation lingered, as if she were standing on the edge of something monumental. One evening, she gathered her friends in her small living room, with the scent of warm tea wafting through the air. The soft glow of candles flickered shadows on the walls, creating a cozy sanctuary where hearts could be laid bare. The excitement was palpable, but so was the hesitation. Miriam, Elias, do you really believe we can let go of everything holding us back? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Miriam looked up, her eyes shining with a fierce resolve. I do believe it, she said earnestly. Just think about the weight we've carried, our doubts, our fears. What if we let them go for good? It's like standing at the threshold of a new life. What if we're shaken down to our core? Elias replied cautiously. What if the very things we cherish become the burdens that prevent our growth? The room fell silent, the weight of those words heavy in the air. Each faced the fear of transformation, a fear that often kept them shackled in their old ways. Yet, as they sat together, an undeniable warmth filled the space, a gentle wind of hope that seemed to twist around them. I think, Sarah began slowly, tapping into the feeling engulfing them. It's in our letting go of comfort that we truly discovered God's grace. At that moment, a knock echoed from the door, breaking the stillness. Sarah jumped, her heart racing. Who could be at such an hour? With a flutter of apprehension and excitement intertwined, she opened the door. Standing on her porch was Grace, a newcomer in the village who had barely spoken to anyone since her arrival. Her face glistened with tears, reflecting the candlelight softly. I heard voices and thought I'd find something, she said tremulously. I thought maybe I could find a home in this community. Overwhelmed by her vulnerability, Sarah beckoned her inside. You are welcome here, she exclaimed warmly. Grace stepped in, her presence a tender reminder of the miracles unfolding in their midst. With trembling hands, she shared her story of loss and isolation. The emotions flowed like a river, revealing her struggles, the burdens that rooted her in despair. Together, we can help each other, Miriam added, her spirit lifted. All it takes is a willingness to let go. The group formed another circle, this time around Grace. Each took turns sharing words of encouragement, affirmations that wrapped Grace in a blanket of love. Sarah could see the light in Grace's eyes begin to flicker with recognition. She was not alone. They were a community finding strength in their shared vulnerabilities. As the evening wore on and stories mingled with laughter and tears, a profound realization settled among them. God was indeed at work, weaving their lives together, challenging them to drop the anchors of their pasts and sail forward into the unknown. Yet, in the depths of joy, Sarah could not shake her inner turmoil. What more would be required of them? Each ember of hope was also a reminder of the fire they would endure. As the weary bodies settled into rest, Sarah looked around at her friends, their faces alight with hope yet tethered by fears. What would come next? The path ahead felt obscured by shadows, waiting for the moment divine clarity would break through. Little did they know, revelation was on the horizon. They were about to face challenges that would test the very seams of their newfound faith. How far they go to embrace this transition? What trials lay ahead that would shape their commitment to let go? The winds of change were picking up, and St. Mary's Hollow braced for the unfolding of a greater narrative. As dawn broke over St. Mary's Hollow, the world outside Sarah's window shimmered in the golden light of a new day. There was something remarkable in the stillness, a quiet expectancy that seeped into the hearts of the villagers. They were drawing nearer to the moment they had awaited, a moment they could feel vibrating beneath the surface of ordinary life. Sarah brewed a pot of tea, her mind swirling with thoughts about the night before. The warmth of the gathering still nestled in her heart. Grace's tears had pricked at something deep within her soul, igniting a longing for connection that was both beautiful and terrifying. Were they truly prepared to shed their old selves, to embrace the unknown that awaited them? She sat at the kitchen table, and as the steam curled from her cup, it felt as if the Lord was wrapping her in a divine embrace. Would they really trust him to guide them through the tumultuous waters ahead? The moment she finished her tea, Sarah decided to pay a visit to the village square, where the morning sun sparkled on the cobblestones. Perhaps a stroll would offer clarity. As she ambled along, she noticed people whispering, their faces painted with a mix of wonder and anxiety. Children ran past her, their laughter carrying on the breeze pure, innocent joy in stark contrast to the heaviness that had settled over the adults. It was a reminder that life could be both exciting and daunting simultaneously. Then, she discovered Miriam by the fountain, her face illuminated with a radiant smile. "Sarah, I've been waiting for you." Miriam's voice rang like a bell, breaking the silence of doubt. "What's going on?" Sarah asked, her heart racing as she sensed her friend's bubbling joy. "I think today is the day," Miriam exclaimed, pointing toward the village square. "There's an invitation hanging at the community board. It's about a gathering, we need to prepare for it." Leading Sarah to the board, they saw a simple, handwritten note. "Join us tonight as we embrace the power of release and renewal. Let us gather to seek the truths hidden in our hearts." A ripple of excitement surged through Sarah as she imagined the possibility of diving deeper into the journey they had begun. It felt like an open door to shift yet again, to discover what was waiting on the other side. Yet, a shadow lingered behind her excitement. What if they weren't ready? "Isn't it wonderful?" Miriam asked, reading the uncertainty on Sarah's face. "This is our chance to lay everything bare before God, to let our truths be known." The vision was bright, but darker clouds of fear also loomed, doubts creeping in, whispering that they weren't worthy, that their past would try to claw them back. Understanding flickered in Sarah. Everyone faced this battle. "Mary, what if we can't handle what we uncover about ourselves?" Sarah's voice trembled, the truth weighing heavy on her heart. "Then we face it together," Miriam replied, determination pouring from her words. "We've already started leaning on each other. What is stopping us from going further? God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called." As the sun rose higher, the time for the gathering drew nearer. The villagers buzzed with anticipation, a sense of collective yearning filling the air. Laughter mingled with a whisper of hope, threading through their conversations, binding them together even tighter. That evening, as they collected in a circle under the open sky, Sarah stood with Grace, Miriam, and Elias. Flickering candles cast a warm glow, illuminating their faces, reflecting the spirit that could no longer fade away. All barriers felt momentarily stripped as they surrendered their doubts, their burdens, to the faithful hand of God. But just when the atmosphere was ripe with possibility, a gust of wind swept through, extinguishing the flames. Fear tugged at Sarah's heart. Was this a sign? What does this mean? She whispered, gripping Grace's hand. A voice echoed in the hush that followed, rising from within them a quiet reminder that turbulence often precedes revelation. Little did they know they were on the brink of breakthroughs that would test their very essence. As shadows danced in the flickering light, Sarah and her friends were about to summon the courage to face the divine mysteries that lay before them. What trials awaited them in those shadows? What hidden strengths would be revealed through the flickering uncertainties? The stillness that followed the extinguished flames deepened, wrapping around Sarah like a thick veil. Her heart raced, thudding in her chest. A cool breeze whispered through the trees, rustling the leaves like an audience holding its breath in anticipation. Grace squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, her eyes wide with curiosity and trepidation. "Maybe the wind is a message," she suggested softly, her voice barely breaking through the silence. "Sometimes, the darkness must clear before the light can shine through." A murmur of agreement rippled through the gathered villagers, their faces shadowed, yet hopeful. They looked toward the sky, where the last traces of sunlight surrendered to the embrace of twilight. It felt as if the very heavens were preparing to show them something profound, something life-altering. "Let us light the candles again," Miriam called, her voice filled with intentionality. She stepped forward, cradling a new flame. The flicker danced to life, reflecting in her eyes, igniting a spirit of resolve among the group. Others followed suit, reigniting their candles. And as they did, tiny points of light flickered in the night, illuminating the faces around them like stars emerging after a storm. A hush fell once again, but this time it felt different. There was a collective breath of faith rising among the villagers, an understanding that whatever was ahead, they would confront it together. Sarah closed her eyes, channeling her thoughts toward God, feeling the warmth of His presence enveloping her like a soft blanket. "What truths do we seek?" Elias's voice broke the serene atmosphere, resonating with authority and vulnerability. "What do we need to release tonight?" At his words, Sarah felt a weight shift in the air. It was as if the very walls that had once held them back began to crumble, allowing for the potential to expel the burdens they had carried for too long. One by one, villagers stepped forward, voices hesitant yet strong. "I'm letting go of my fear of judgment," one woman declared. "I relinquish my bitterness," said another man, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. With each declaration, the darkness thinned, and a warm glow spread through the space, as though the very stones beneath them rejoiced. Sarah's heart swelled as she listened, her own fears mixing with the hopes rising around her. "What about you, Sarah?" Miriam nudged gently, her eyes tender and expectant. Breath hitching in her throat, Sarah opened her mouth, but words tangled inside her. The fear of inadequacy held her back. But in that moment, surrounded by her friends, she felt something shift within. Maybe this was her moment. "I want to let go of," she hesitated, searching for the courage to speak her truth, "my fear of the unknown." The acceptance of her vulnerability surprised her, and as she spoke, she felt lighter, as if chains were falling away. An inexplicable peace settled in the group, binding them in trust and solidarity. The wind whispered again, this time in agreement, like a heavenly chorus affirming their journey. Suddenly, the air crackled with energy, charged with divine anticipation. As if the night itself was waiting, something powerful was brewing, something they could hardly fathom. Then a wondrous sight happened. From above, a shooting star darted across the dark canvas of the sky, blazing intensely before fading back into nothingness. Gasps erupted from those around, eyes widening in awe, as Sarah felt a well of hope rise within her. "Did you see that?" she breathed, filling her heart with possibility. "Yes, it was a sign," Grace exclaimed, eyes sparkling with conviction. A glimpse of what could be. And in that moment, Sarah understood that the trials ahead were not meant to break them, but to mold them into something greater. Like the shooting star, they too were destined to shine brightly, illuminating the darkest nights. Yet, even as hope surged, curiosity nestled in the back of her mind. What did this revelation mean for them? What awaited in the shadows beyond their shared light? The group stood united, confidence stirring in the night air around them. The path ahead shimmered like the starry sky, inviting them forward. Tonight wasn't just about letting go. It was about transformation. As they all basked in the radiant glow of their vulnerabilities, a question lingered, echoing in Sarah's heart. What divine manifestations would unfold from their newfound courage? And were they truly ready to embrace what lay ahead? The air was ripe with expectation, thick with the sense of night and earth. As the villagers stood clustered, their eyes turned upward. The dark sky was now a canvas of possibilities, each flickering star a beacon of hope. Sarah felt the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, almost as if it throbbed in rhythm with her racing heart. Elias raised his arms, his voice steady and profound. Tonight is a night of release. Let us remember that in surrendering, we don't lose. We gain clarity and strength. His words wrapped around them, binding their spirits. Following his lead, Grace stepped forward, her own candle flickering with renewed brilliance. "I want to let go of the past, the shackles that keep me from embracing joy fully." It was a brave declaration, each syllable filled with a power that seemed to lift the very atmosphere. Murmurs of agreement drowned the night, voices rising like a gentle crescendo. The villagers shared their burdens, each confession drawing them closer, wrapping their hearts together in a sacred bond of unity. As others spoke, Sarah felt unmoored by the depth of their authenticity. It triggered a desire within her to fortify her own resolve. With every loss declared, every weight lifted, the glow surrounding them grew brighter, igniting hope in their hearts. The darkness began to shimmer with potential, as if the universe itself danced in harmony with their release. "I relinquish worry," one man spoke, trembling slightly. "I choose to trust instead," his voice faltered. Yet each word held a release so powerful it made Sarah shiver. Bit by bit, as lanterns shone more vividly against the board of night, she felt her own chain of worries loosening, each confession a step closer to the light. But still, a deep question tugged at her heart. What if embracing this light meant facing darker fears, shadows long buried? She felt a small whisper urging her to step into her vulnerability, but the weight of anxiety pressed in around her. Then, as if a sudden wind had swept through them, a shared breath swept through the group. A surge of warmth cascaded from their newfound unity, filling each heart with fiery compassion and love. The wind picked up, carrying a flicker of excitement and whispers of the promises ahead. A moment of silence enveloped them as they gazed into the stars, their spirits buoyed. Sarah felt a presence deeper than words. This wasn't merely a gathering. They were being knitted into a community transformed by faith. She took a step closer to the center, her heart pounding in time with some unseen rhythm. "I want to let go of my doubts about my own worth." The hesitation melted away, replaced by a clarity that gripped her soul. "I choose to believe I have a place in this world." A hush fell over the gathered crowd, followed by an overwhelming response of warmth, nods, and soft exclamations of solidarity. Her heart felt like it was wrapped in endless grace. Suddenly, a harmonious glow erupted from within their circle, illuminating their faces with a divine light. It was as if the heavens themselves had answered their prayers, resonating with unfathomable love. And in that brilliance, Sarah caught a glimpse of a path she had not imagined before. Strange and beautiful it seemed, filled with divine purpose. The air hummed with promise, beckoning them forward into a new chapter, But questions lingered in the air like perfume from a fragrant bloom. Would they be brave enough to walk the path ahead? And would their awakening lead them into the growth they so desperately sought? With hearts intertwined, the villagers stood on the cusp of transformation, poised to embrace whatever awaited them in the shadows. The dawn of a new day broke over St. Mary's Hollow, its golden light spilling across the village like a promise fulfilled. The air was thick with an exhilarating blend of hope and determination. Sarah, standing outside her front door, inhaled deeply. The sweet aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the crisp morning air. She felt the warm sun on her face, a gentle reminder that God was with them, sustaining their renewed spirits. With each passing hour, a palpable energy surged through the community. The villagers were eager to awaken the courage that lay dormant within, ready to face whatever trials awaited them. As Sarah prepared to lead a new gathering, her heart brimmed with love for her friends, each one a piece of the tapestry that God was weaving. Today, we embrace more than just release, she announced as she called everyone together. We commit ourselves to transformation. God is asking us to step beyond our comfort zones, to choose faith over fear. Her voice rang out, bolder than she even thought she could be. Each person gathered, faces bright with anticipation. They circled her, their eyes swirling with purpose. Sarah felt unity like she had never experienced before, a tight bond formed by collective vulnerability. Let us remember the sacrifice of our doubts and fears. Miriam spoke next, her voice steady. It is through our honest admissions that God's light shines brightest. We can choose to lean into one another's strength. One by one, villagers rose to share their intentions. A middle-aged woman stepped forward. I want to release my anger toward old friends who doubted me. I choose forgiveness. I choose peace. Her words cascaded like water, cleansing stones in a river. As the stories poured forth, each declaration crafted a deeper bond. Little Lily, brimming with courage, stood once again, her small voice steady. I want to let go of feeling scared at night. I trust that God is my light. The strength in her simplicity sent ripples of warmth through the gathered hearts. I'll let go of trying to control everything, Mr. Thompson confessed, his voice breaking with emotion. I'm learning to trust that I'm not just a vessel. I am a vessel of his purpose. Tears glistened in the eyes around Sarah as she felt the presence of God wrapping them all together, a comforter over their shared experiences. Hope burgeoned, and with every exhalation of truth, every weight released, she sensed an unexplainable freedom awakening among them. Yet, despite the radiant atmosphere, a quiet thought clung to Sarah's heart. Sacrifices would still be demanded. This transaction of faith required not merely words but action. The discomfort of change would test them, and she braced for what that might look like. The moment came when Grace, tears flowing freely down her cheeks, called out, "Can we commit ourselves to active service? To help others in this journey?" Yes. The group erupted in murmurs of agreement. Let us reach out to those still bound by fear. Share a light with them, not just here, but beyond these walls. I'd like us to visit the elderly home, Miriam suggested. We can lend our hearts, share our prayers, and remind them they are not alone. That simple idea lit a fire. Conversations exploded, each voice building upon the last. Plans formed as everyone buzzed with a divine energy. Then Sarah raised her hands. School, homes, neighbors, anywhere we can share this journey of faith. It can be our mission. As they outlined their plans, the night crept in softly, brushing against their enthusiastic chatter. Among the laughter and the promises, Sarah felt a growing light pooling in her core, shimmering with divine assurance. Whatever lay in wait for them, they were prepared to dive deep, to venture into the unknown as one. Let us not falter, Sarah urged, emboldened by their willingness. If we push through the shadows together, we'll continue to see miracles. As they left the chapel that night, hearts lifted, they stepped into the stillness of the evening, armed with a fresh commitment to not only carry their light, but to ignite others. Starlight twinkled above, shining down upon their shared burdens being lifted, illuminating the path forward. In those moments, as if the universe sighed in agreement, Sarah felt a warmth, a promise that their next steps would be transformative. They were embarking on a mission, not just to reclaim their faith, but to illuminate others as well. What awaited them, they knew, would be sacred. Challenges would come, but their community had awakened to the divine call to love, to serve, and to shine brightly against all darkness. The journey of St. Mary's Hollow began anew. One step at a time, with faith lighting the way now. Dear friends, you need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you won't miss the next exclusive tales of faith that inspire deep transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share the light. Comment below your reactions and testimonies about this powerful ending, as your voices matter in this community. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of divine hope. Let us spread this love and light together.